A lot of people making money out there today. A lot of people claiming to be making a lot of money. A lot of people living like they're making a lot of money. But it's hard to know who's really making money. The rich are making money. The rich always make money. But the average person, the average Joe, who's just looking to bring their lifestyle from a B to a C, or actually we'll go the other way. We want to bring it from a C to a B. We'll go from a grade standpoint, you want to go up. So we're looking to elevate. How do we elevate? Well, there's so much information out there about how to get rich quick, how to make money, how to do this now. They're mowing lawns right now. Bad timing, doesn't matter. They need to make their money too. So we have people making money, loads of people making money. What was I saying? I've lost my train of thought. Money, 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 money. Lots of people claim it. Yeah, that was it. There's all these different ways of getting wealthy these days. All these different schemes. Get rich quick. Earn 5 million euro a day from your home for only 3 hours extra work. All this bollocks. Why is there so many of those schemes? Because they work. They reel us in, they catch our attention, they sell us the dream we already have in our heads. Some of the ads may look as ridiculous as the hot singles in your area, but obviously there's so many of those ads that they must work too. Oh, Cynthia's a single mom in my area who's down to... Oh, hello. You don't think they work, but they obviously do. And if me and you are looking to get ahead, well then we're potential victims to this whole thing. So how do you figure out what's good and what isn't? Short answer, experience. You can walk into every one of these schemes and get burnt in every last one of them, and then you stand back and go, that one didn't work, that one didn't work, that one didn't work, that one didn't work. Yeah, one option. Or you can go to someone who has all the information and you can say, hello sir, I need your information. And that person will go, I can help you, no problem. Just write that check for me there and we'll be good to go. Or you can watch a podcast full of all the information you need for free. Where could you get a podcast like that though? Where could you get someone who goes to people and asks them random questions about a variety of topics? That is what I've done for you today. Eugene Ryan. Eugene Ryan is a bit of a boss. Eugene Ryan is a financial advisor who was originally a mortgage broker who set up his own business in the middle of a crash. 2008 sets up a financial advisory business and you think, bad time for that, bro. 13 years later, that business is booming. Eugene has more clients than he knows what to do with. Why? Because people are coming around for quality information that's hard to find, and Eugene has it. Eugene has a head for finance. This man has strategies that actually work. These aren't get-rich-quick schemes. These are genuine, fascinating, thought-through, thorough methods that anyone can incorporate into how they run their expenses. Eugene spends his time meeting people and discussing their finances. Where can they do better? What holes can they plug? What are the blind spots that they've been having? He's brilliant. He's very good at getting to the core of an issue. He's also extremely interested in the topic, which makes for very engaging conversation. We have a cracking podcast, me and him. We get into all sorts of finances. From all the different scams and schemes you need to be aware of, the little tactics and tricks you can do to improve your spending and your savings. We get into cryptos and stocks and all the hype around that trading market. Does it work? Does it not work? How can you do it wisely? How do you not get burned? Anyone who's looking to get ahead financially, this is the podcast for you. There is priceless information here that you can use forever. That's what's beautiful about this. As he says himself so well, finance is relative. Eugene's methods are applicable across the entire spectrum of financial situations. He could walk into a millionaire's house in the morning, organise their finances, and sit down for lunch with a struggling young couple who have just taken out their first mortgage. The money mindfulness program that he runs is a brilliant little system. I highly recommend people to listen to this podcast and to implement some of the strategies he's talking about. However, the best thing you can possibly do is organise a meeting with him. All his information is going to be in the description. It's at the end of the podcast as well. Any young people out there looking to get ahead and be successful when they're older, now is when you have to implement these systems. It's now you have the time to really understand how compounding interest works in your favour. Another great point he has is that people overestimate what they want to do in 6 months and underestimate what they can do in 3 years or 5 years or 30 years. There's schemes you can get on now which will give you financial security in the future that you can't even dream of. You don't have to have the most well-paid job. You don't have to win the lottery. You don't have to be a scam artist. You don't have to be successful in cryptos. You can work an ordinary job, use tactics that are smart, and have wealth secured in the future. Money isn't the source of happiness, but a healthy amount of it is a great source of comfort. There's a lot of stress and worries you can put to bed if you've got a bit of money there. And Eugene's strategy is how to get there. I highly recommend people contact Eugene, organise a meeting with him, have the one-on-one coaching yourself. These are strategies you will use forever. Any future partners you get will be blown away at how good you are with finances. And to further encourage you to have a meeting with Eugene, he is very generously provided a 25% discount on his coaching when you use Rambleland. I cannot stress the benefits of having a meeting with him enough, and there's 25% off when you have that coaching session with him. And finally, with all this talk about money and finances and stress, you need to set aside time to decompress, to relax, to zone out, to take a step back from the rush and the bustle of everyday life and to just chill. So with that in mind, as always, shout out for our sponsors, Flow Corp, 15% off when you use Rambleland at checkout. Shout out Jack Devine, the first man to use the Rambleland discount at Flow Corp that I know of. I'm looking forward to seeing a few more people pick up on it. Book your coaching session, go for a float, and chill out with the Rambleland podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, Rambleland episode 17 with Eugene Ryan.
Is that the goal?
So what is the goal? That's a great
10
question.
million from Spotify.
Oh, I'd take it. If it came my way, I'd take it. I think the goal at the beginning is just to provide high quality information / entertainment that I can offer sponsorships on and advertisement on, and that's where I can begin to sort of make a bit of money off it.
Okay.
The long-term goal... I don't know what the long-term goal is, because there's other things pulling me away. There's other aspects of life that I want to go and engage with and do. I don't want to be a podcaster and that's it.
Sure.
This sort of long-term career prospect isn't really in me. Like, I've got a few other things that are drawing me a few different directions. And so if a situation came along where someone said you're going to have to stop podcasting for a few years in order to do this, I'm like, yeah, okay, no problem.
Yeah,
and I'm willing to do that. The problem is that if I actually got this up and running, from a business perspective, it would be unwise to step away from it and then come back down the line, because the opportunities might be gone, the energy might be gone, people mightn't be listening to podcasts anymore. With the way things are changing, it wouldn't surprise me if one day someone was like, no, podcasts are just, no one does podcasts anymore. And I'm that old 40-year-old fella coming back, but I have all these stories. Do you know what? I won't want any part of it, like, but...
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm keeping it free ball at the moment.
I heard a bit of advice the other day I thought was very clever. It was actually when people were slagging off Donald Trump for his blog failing after less than a month, and he was saying if you're going to get into blogging or podcasting or whatever, he said you should say I'm doing a season, and you put a number on it, right? And if after 10 you go, it's not going where I wanted to go or whatever, you go, well, I did my season. I've succeeded. I did my season. And if it's gone really well, you go, great news, season 2.
I like that.
And actually, we were talking about Adam Buxman. He that's how he operates as well. He does seasons at a time. He'll do he'll do a chunk of recordings, and then he'll go on a hiatus, and then he'll come back and do a chunk of recordings.
I think I will have to eventually do something like that, because at the minute this snowballing effect it's constantly draining on me.
Yeah.
And it's constantly something that has to be done, and it's almost like a farmer would be able to sort of connect with me, where he talks about the fact that you can't leave the farm. You know, you rarely get a proper holiday, and already I'm beginning to see that the way I'm currently doing it is not sustainable.
Yeah,
I'm working 24/7 every week until I either crash or burn or something else happens. But we'll come back to organize it. First of all, let me introduce you, Eugene Ryan.
Anytime.
How would you introduce yourself actually? Who are you and what are you?
So
why are you in my house?
So, yeah, we were introduced to each other. You had some financial questions through another broker. You were sent on to myself. And I suppose part of that reason is because I love having interesting conversations with people about their finances. Whether it's there's a product for me to sell or not, I'm very much interested in helping people come to decisions and how they come to decisions. So my background is banking, mortgage brokering. I've been running my own brokerage for the last 13 years. And more recently, we've really gotten into the area of money coaching, money mindfulness, that area. And that's how we got into having those kind of conversations, yeah.
Mm-hmm. What is mortgage brokering?
So mortgage brokering was huge in the country, a number of years ago, before 2008. It is helping a customer acquire their mortgage. The old way of doing it for me anyway, certainly was you would meet the customer. The customer never met the bank. You did all the work. You helped them source their mortgage, get their approval, bring them through the entire process, and the bank paid you a commission for that. That model really got knocked on its head. Banks didn't want to pay brokers commission after 2008. And personally, I don't believe that they still want to. Some people are out there doing a bit of mortgage brokering, but it's far more limited than it was before. Banks want to talk to you directly. So as a result, if somebody needs help with a mortgage now, I'll give them an hour. I'll answer the questions that they might need, point them in the right direction. But, we don't go down the mortgage commission route anymore. We focus more now on the overall requirements of the customer, all their financial requirements, including financial training, all that sort of stuff.
So someone is coming to you for financial advice more so than specific looking for a mortgage. Can you get me that mortgage? I would be a very good first port to call. It's interesting, there's this sort of worry a number of years ago that with the rise of the internet that all these jobs that could potentially go because you have access to the information. You can Google it, you can look it up. But there's so much noise, and there's so much work to be done. And a mortgage is a good example. People may need to apply for a mortgage once, twice, 3 times. Do you know what I mean? It's not a lot of times. And the timing between when they apply could be 10, 15, 20 years between when they applied now and when they applied then. And people say to me, oh, sorry, I just don't know anything about this. I'm like, why would you? How would you be expected to know? And even if you did get a mortgage before, the criteria has changed, some of the process would have changed. So, the thing to do is you look for somebody that's sort of referred to you, somebody that you can trust, where you can go, right, tell me what I need to know. I'm sure, in the same way that, let's take, for example, fitness. Yeah. If you weren't into running before, and you went, right, I need to start running. Yes, you could go to the internet and you could watch huge amounts of YouTube videos, and you could read huge amounts of articles, or you could talk to somebody who runs. You go, who would you recommend? And they go, have a half-hour conversation with that person. You probably get all you need talking to the expert. So there was that worry for a while that that our jobs in around the area of advice would be curtailed, but I don't think that's the case. If anything, it's the amount of noise out there means that people appreciate somebody who has the knowledge to be able to help them and shortcut everything for them and take the effort. Give you a quick example. Dealing with some customers there at the moment, and they came to me. They had a decision to make about would they buy a house off their parents, or would they take a site and build a house, or would they just go and buy a finished house, right? Yeah. And after about an hour of a discussion, and it wasn't me telling them what to do. It was like, so here are the things you need to consider. These are the variables. This is how the bank will assess it. This is what you'll need, what you won't need, and here's a way that you can consider one option against the other option to try and figure out what is the right thing for you. So I gave them all that. Then went to it, and they came back to me and went, right, we're building. We're building. And then when they came out and said they're building, they said, well, we're getting married at the end of next year, so we're going to wait until after that. I was like, okay, you could, but consider these other variables like the Help to Buy scheme and their financial situation, where they're going, their savings. And then when I looked at them and went, actually, we should do it now, shouldn't we? And I was like, because that's the thing, is that it's a landscape that's constantly changing. That's the other thing about it, is that, and one of the perks as well with you not working with a bank now is that you don't seem like you're pushing an agenda.
Oh, no.
You're literally coming like, this is all you need to know on these topics. and I'll do whatever I can to make each of them clear for you. But that's the other thing, that people are worried that you get a mortgage before 2008. You get a mortgage 2006, 2007. It was golden. You had a 400k mortgage on a job that should not have gotten you a 400k mortgage.
Correct.
And now 10 years later, you're still in that mindset. Maybe 15 years later, you understand that there was a crash, but you don't really understand the significance of it. And you go back, and next thing you can't even get a 250k mortgage on the same job, maybe.
Sure. Yeah.
You're like, well, what's going on? And so Google will tell you all the bad things that happen, but you need someone to come in and be like, well, here's the new rules that the banks are playing by, and here's how you can now adjust the life you're living to make it happen for you.
The other aspect of that is that when people say, but surely, but like, wouldn't they just? And it's like, they have their own logic. I can't say that. When I look at it, I like to understand how things work, and I like to. If a bank comes back to me and says to me, well, we can do or we can't do for these reasons, I like to understand why. And sometimes, you really have to struggle to try to understand their logic.
Will they give you a why?
Not always, but you can usually figure it out. You can usually get a good reason. A very simple example. For ages, if let's say, for example, there was a married couple who want to buy a house. And for whatever reason, one of them wants to buy the house. They don't want to buy it in joint names. And it's the family home. The rule for years on that was it's just not allowable. And the reason being that spouses have an automatic right and entitlement to each other's property. So if one of the spouses doesn't sign the mortgage deed, how is the bank going to repossess the property? And I went like, that's a good reason. I get that. And so when people were coming to me and say, oh, I want to do this, they're like, the bank aren't going to go with that, right? They've changed their mind on that. There's a couple of banks now that will do that. I don't know why. It makes, because I don't believe anything's changed on the legal side of things. I don't know, like, if the people default on the mortgage, how they're going to repossess the property, because one of the spouses who has a legal right and entitlement to the house hasn't signed the mortgage deed, but now they're doing it. So it's not always clear. Most of the time you get an understanding about the logic to their decision, or at least where they're coming from and their reasoning. And then it's just a matter of, well, what does the client need, and where can we make this fit? Or how can we make this application fit with the right bank in the right way that we can get what they need done? But it doesn't always make sense, and you definitely can't apply logic a lot of the time to how banks operate. You just can't.
What's going on at the minute whereby what traditionally was the ideal candidate for mortgage, just as young couples with young family with two relatively good jobs, and maybe even one real good job, how is it that now they're struggling to get mortgages today?
So there's a couple of factors. There's a good question. There's a lot of factors to it. So a big one is supply and demand. Okay. The property stock isn't there. Like, we went through a big recession there, and an interesting statistic from that is that there was still more marriages and births year on year throughout all that. So although there was a recession, life carried on for lots and lots of people. And they all have matured to stages where they'd like to have their own property, which is, some people would claim it's an Irish obsession, and it's a throwback to, it's an ancestral thing in us from landlords and all that sort of stuff. But ultimately, like, parents want their children to get well educated, get a good job, and get a home, get married, have grandchildren. That's all what they look for. But ultimately, that's
not an Irish thing. I think
it's not all. No, that thing isn't an Irish thing. But definitely, we have a higher expectation or a want to own property than a lot of other countries. Certainly, men in Europe, they would happily rent long term. Lots of places in American cities, I suppose, they just don't have the option to buy. They will rent, and that's the culture. That's how they are. But going back to the question though of why is it harder now? The supply is a big issue. Yeah. That's number one. Number two, cost of construction skyrocketed. I was actually talking to my parents recently. I can't remember now what year it was. It would have been maybe around the end of the 90s. They built a 3-bedroom bungalow for about £50,000. Right? Like, that build today, 250,000 minimum before you buy the site. So cost of construction and cost of supplies is going up. The energy efficiency part of it has made houses more expensive to build. but it's a good thing that houses are being more energy efficient, but it
Yes.
is adding to the price. So you have the cost side of things, so you have lack of supply, the increase in cost. A lot of people would say that, you know, the banks aren't playing ball, that they're not giving out as much as they should give. And that's a tricky one for me because, like, the banks will give 3.5 times combined income, right? And when you look at the percentage cost of the mortgage versus the income coming in, it's really where it should be. So, like, that might end up with a mortgage repayment being somewhere between 20 and 25% of their total income. Like, that's beyond that is getting kind of scary.
Yes.
And banks used to give up to 40%. So what happened before 2008 was, like, a bank would say, we will lend you, this couple, 40% of your take-home pay. So you imagine a couple, they're both earning okay, and they don't have children yet. And they buy a house. And they can get the money from the bank to buy the house that they want. And their mortgage repayment is 40%, okay? They then might take on a car loan. That's adding up to 45% more. Maybe there's a marriage, maybe there's a loan for that. Maybe there's children come along. Then there's childcare cost. And then they end up in the trap where they can't afford for one of them to come out of work, but the mortgage, the loan, and the childcare is crucifying them. They've got hardly money left to live on. So I don't think the idea of, like, releasing things with the purse strings of the bank or allowing the criteria to extend so that people can go back to borrowing 5 times combined income, like, that's not the solution, because that's only just going to push people into poverty. And a lot of times, you know, people rely on the bank to be their conscience. Like, if the bank say you can have the money, they go, great, I'll take the money.
Everything must be okay.
I must be okay if the bank say they'll give me the money. And that's not the way to work, ever. Even now, that's not the way to work. So that is obviously another issue in there as well. Another big issue people have is that you have to have 10% of the deposit if you're a first-time buyer, 20% if you're a second-time buyer. And if you're a first-time buyer, we were just talking about the cost of rent there a second ago. Like, if you've got to pay big rent, and you're, you know, trying to live, getting 10% together is tough. You know, and that's we're talking about money coaching work that we do. You know, that's why we think that's so important, to help people on their personal finance stuff, to be able to figure out how they can do that. But it isn't easy. You know, it isn't easy to accumulate that saving, especially if you don't have help from family, to accumulate that saving while paying rent and living at the same time. So there are a number of the main factors there. It is possible. I actually, just very quickly, just made a quick note before I came down to you. So if you have a couple with both of them earning 30,000, that's potentially a mortgage then of what was that? 210, a mortgage of 210, and if they've got 10%, that's a purchase price of 234. Combined incomes of 40, you're looking at a purchase price then of around 311.
Yeah.
Now, I'm sure depending on the market you're in, like city centres, Dublin, Cork, and places, you know, people be going like, I can't buy a house for 300,000. Are you joking? Like, I need more.
Yeah.
But, you know, if you can find a way of working with what you have and finding the right property and being ready, I think, as well, as the key thing. Like, one of the tough things is trying to work towards your savings goal and get yourself ready when you can't see how it's going to happen. Sometimes you just have to have a bit of faith and go, look, I can't see how it's going to happen, but I'm still going to start putting away the money, because an opportunity could come along, and I'll need to be ready when the opportunity comes along.
And that's a mindset twist.
And that's a mindset, yeah.
This may be a bit of a weird one, but I think as well, we could be beginning to see the effects of social media playing out in the younger people going for houses, where they've built up their standard of living, their perceived standard of living with the average population is so high that when it comes to their turn to get something and it's not matching even a percentage of what's in their imagination, maybe there's a reality check that they're not prepared to go with. But the other factor though as well, because I was listening to Red FM, there was a woman on, now she was in the category of what should be desirable for mortgages, couldn't get a mortgage, and an advisor came on to speak to her. And one of the big things he kept saying was shopping around. He said, you have to go to different banks. Just because you've got your main current account in Bank of Ireland does not mean that one of the other crowd won't give you your mortgage. Shopping around is a big thing. And that was something very simple that people could, you know, very simple tactic that people use to actually get a better price. Because she wasn't getting her 3.5 times the combined mortgage. And again, she couldn't understand why. The logic they were giving her didn't make sense. So obviously they'd seen something that she couldn't and they weren't telling her. But what else then? So when you have someone, you've got a young couple, they're like, look, we want to build, we have, this is our combined salary. What can we do to start putting this 10% together?
Well, actually, just before we get on to that's a good example as well of people assuming banks are being logical. If you banked with the bank all your life and your family have, and your wages is credited there, you'd assume that's the best place, the best opportunity you have to get the mortgage. Banks don't, when it comes to issuing the money, they don't care where you've banked. As long as they see the statements, that's it. There's no better allowance made for somebody who's been banking with you or knowing. There's no such thing as much as the banks would like to think that they do relationship banking, they don't do relationship banking.
I was going to ask, is there any loyalty
it doesn't,
there at all?
No, there's none now anymore. It doesn't. And bank managers don't have the ability to make decisions anymore. All the decisions are made in Dublin. In fact, I know a lot of bank managers whose the decision they get for the issuing of the mortgage is made by somebody junior than them in years of experience in Dublin. They don't have the authority to do it. You know, that's not the way the banks are going. But anyway, that's a whole other thing. We could get into that.
Yeah.
Go back to the question though, on what they can do and the savings. So, like, a big part of that, and I suppose it's a huge theme of what we do in money coaching, is money mindfulness and taking control of your spending, of your own spending, and how you do what you spend and how you spend it. This is probably going to go off now into a huge tangent, right? But I suppose that's a theme of the podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Like, this is exactly what we're building.
That's exactly where you want to go. Okay. Yeah. So where will I start in this? There's most people, I'm sure, would think that, look, I make my decisions. I'm my own person. I make my decisions. I do what I want to do. And the more you look into it, the interesting thing is that, you know, we are the decisions that we make are so much swayed by so many external factors to ourselves. And obviously I'm thinking it from the point of view of where we spend our money and how, right? Mm-hmm. But it affects everything, like, you know, how we do what we do, where we live, what kind of clothes we wear, what kind of car we drive. Like, there's a huge amount of influence being put on us to determine what we do and where we spend our money. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think of an example for you here. So, if actually the research on this, and there's some brilliant YouTube clips on this, there's a fantastic study that was done, this little bit of a research thing, it goes back to years, but it's been duplicated many times, where they look at the pressure of the people around you, social pressure, right? Two quick experiments I'll tell you about. One is, and you can go onto YouTube and you'll see these videos of the experiments being done. One is, a guy gets into an elevator and there's 4 or 5 other people already in the elevator. Mm-hmm. And the person going in doesn't realize that they're the test subject and everybody else is in on this. There's one door on the elevator. They go into the elevator, the door is closed. On cue, the 4 people turn around and face the back of the elevator. Mm-hmm. Now, if you go into an elevator, like, and there's one door, why would you turn around? Right? Mm-hmm. It makes no sense. And I'm sure it was actually like, if you went in an elevator and 4 people turned and faced the back of it, would you turn? You go, no, why would I? That's insane. In almost every case, people turn around. Yeah. The pressure of not conforming to what everybody else is doing is huge. And they just can't help themselves. And they take this experiment to ridiculous levels then, like, you know, because it started, I think the first experiment was back in the 50s or the 60s or whatever it was, when people wore hats all the time. Yeah. Actually, the friend I'm meeting today, he has a problem with the fact that we stopped wearing hats, but we kept wearing ties. He doesn't make that, makes no sense. But anyway,
bring back the
hats.
Bring it back.
So they went to the extent then where, like, you know, they would turn 90 degrees, turn back 90 degrees, take their hat off, put their hat back on, and the test subjects would just start doing what everybody else is doing. There's another great experiment that's done where they bring somebody up on a stage, and they'll be at a row of 10. And they hold up something, they ask them a question, and they get the answers, and everybody gives the answer. They do it a few times just to test them, right? Mm-hmm. And then they hold up something, say that is blue, and they ask the first person, what color is this? Yeah. And they go, red. And the first 9 people are actually all in on it. Yeah. The last person is the test subject. Yeah. And they hold it up and go, what color is this? It's blue. And they go along, blue, blue, blue. And the last person, the majority of the time, will go along with what everybody else has said, even though they know that it's a lie, that their eyes are telling them that's a different color, and they will go along with it. And I've seen it. I've seen this happen now that I'm aware of it. Like, I've seen it happen real time with some people, which is really, really interesting. So that's the first thing. And that's a real big tangent to your question.
Just to add to that one, because I remember reading about those studies as well, and there was another one to add to that was that test subject comes into a waiting room, a bell rings, and everyone stands up. They stand for a few seconds and they sit back down, and test subjects are looking around like, what's going on here? Bell rings again, everyone stands up.
Perfect, yeah.
And the next thing, the test subject stands up.
Yeah.
Subject. So grand, that happens. And slowly they filter out everyone who's in on the social experiment until it's just a test subject with non-test subjects who come in.
Right.
And when the bell goes, the test subject will continue to stand and will explain to people in the room, you have to stand on the bell. So not only had he begun to mimic, but this was now this rule that no one had told him about, that he had been just over a few minutes been trained that this
Which makes no sense.
Makes no sense.
Which makes no sense. So, and then to bring that into like people's finances and how they spend money, like if you're in a group of friends, and you know, the norm would have been like you go on a summer holiday, right? Fine. And then you're in a group of friends where you realize that they're all going on a winter holiday as well. Like the pressure on you not to go on a winter holiday is huge. And then your group of friends buy mobile homes. You're like, we should get a mobile home. And it's not like often that can happen in a real mindless way where you're just going with the status quo and that's what's done. And as opposed to asking yourself, do we need one? Is it a good investment? Will we use it? Would the money spent on that would that give us, which is the thing that I want to talk to you about today, which is the fun per euro ratio, right?
Yes.
Will that give us the fun per euro spend on that, or should we spend it another way? But because you're in a cohort of people that do certain things, it's very, very difficult to maintain your independence and maintain your own decision making. And you really need to have your own mindfulness and have tools that you can use to help figure that out, to figure out what is the right thing for me to do.
To solidify that characteristic, my housemate Gino's a car salesman. And when he gets a certain customer in and he sees their address and he knows it's an estate, a particular housing estate, he'll sit back and he'll smile. Because over the next 2 to 3 weeks, once that car is delivered, he'll have 3, 4, 5 more people from that same state. And they'll come in and they won't say, oh, have you any cars? They'll come in and say, Mary got a car off you. Have you anything like it?
Yeah.
And where possible, he'll get them having it. Oh, I'll if there's an extra that they knew Mary didn't have, then, oh, you can throw in that there as well. Yeah. And one by one, he'll know for the next couple of weeks that there's cash coming in.
My work colleague Laura, and my business partner in money coaching, she told me a story. She was at a Munster game, and before the game started, she overheard a guy on the phone near her, and he took a call from his partner, and the call was about the fact that she was changing her car, and he was like, it was news to him. He was going, all right, yeah, and what are you getting? And talk to you, and he got off the phone. And he told his friends, that was my partner, and she's changing her car, and these are the details. And then he finished it up with, better change mine now. Oh. And it was because, so his decision to change his car was, my partner now has a newer car than I have, right? But the variables obviously on changing your car should be, what age is it? Is the finance paid? And then what kind of car to buy is, what space do I need? What reliability do I need? And actually that brings you on to something which we often talk about in money coaching, which is the whole idea of advertising. That all advertising essentially is selling you the idea of if you had this product or service, look how happy and fulfilled you would be. Blind Boy on his podcast, he actually talks about this a lot because he talks a lot about mindfulness. Blind Boy, the podcaster, he talks a lot about this whole aspect of the psychology of it. And I like to talk about it from the point of view of cars. If you think about an ad for a car that you've seen on TV, it is usually a beautiful couple in a perfectly clean car driving on a road with no traffic. If there's kids in the ad, they're very well behaved kids. Nobody's mushing a biscuit into the upholstery in the back seat. Nobody's crying. Everything is just lovely, right? And you go, I'd like to live like that. If I owned a Renault Kadjar or whatever, look how happy I'd be. Whereas the reality is that if you're buying a car, what are the variables that you should consider? The cost, for me, the size of the boot, the reliability, the maintenance cost. And I know this isn't bloody exciting stuff, but it's mindful. It's mindful stuff. And it's like, so do we need to change the car? Why do we need to change it? What do we need in a car? As opposed to driving down the road, seeing a garage, which your mate probably does with his really polished, shiny car sitting out there. You could drive this car for €45 a week. And people are like, sure, I'd spend €45 on a night out. Sure, €45 wouldn't even buy me a dinner nowadays. Like, if we go out for dinner, sure, that's nothing. I'll get that. Yeah. But that's like €45 a week over the month. And that's a commitment for 5 years. And it's probably, what's the PCP, which means that you're not even going to own the car when the finance is over. You're either going to have to come up with a lump sum or you're going to have to hand the car back. And it's like, and that might work for some people like that. I'm not saying that that's completely wrong, but I'm just saying a mindful approach to it as to how you go about it. To bring that back to actually property purchase, we recommend a similar thing when it comes to looking for a home. A lot of people make the mistake of not being mindful around looking for a property, and they go and look at a property, and they're led by their decision of how they felt, the emotional connection. And you could walk into a property which is incredibly well decorated. It's got lovely furniture in it. It's got lovely soft furnishings. You came in, there was a smell of coffee. Maybe they baked some bread before you came in. The auctioneer is slick. And you're going, I could see myself living here. This would be lovely. But those factors that I've just described, they're the things that are the lowest requirements. So what we recommend when people are going to look at a house is have a chat about what are the top things you want in a house. Which are usually like the location, the size of the garden, and then put them in order of what you can change afterwards to what's most expensive to change down to what's least expensive to change. And then we recommend a rating system then as well. So if it's the most important thing to you and you give it a score out of 10, that should have a higher multiple than the lowest thing on the menu on your list of requirements, right? And it just gives you a way of assessing one property against another property, as opposed to the circular conversation about, I got a good feeling from this house, and this house has a nice garden, but that house has a better kitchen. And it gives you a way of assessing it. I did this with a couple, and they had been looking for property for a year, and I gave them this method, and they went off and they used it, and they came back 2 weeks later and they were sale agreed on a house. Whoa. And I said, what happened? And one of them was asthmatic, and she just had in her head, if she walked into a house that had carpets, it was like, I don't like that house. But the reality is, you send somebody in the day you bought it to rip all the carpets out and put them in a skip and replace that carpeting with wood floor or laminate or liner or whatever it is that you decide to put down. And but that was the factor that was obviously not a good variable for their decision-making process. Yeah. And they just needed to take that out, and then it was easier to make the decision. And a lot
of the times, you can't read the label when you're inside the jar. You need that outside person to come and just look, this is the situation. And it can just, those very, very simple things make someone go, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Never actually thought about it like that.
Yeah.
Bringing behavioural economics into it there for a minute was the funny thing about shared economy between a couple. So an individual won't want to spend €400 out of his own money on a whatever, but doesn't mind his partner buying it for him for Christmas, even though they share the same bank account. They're going to share the same debt result, and the very simple things that will change how we perceive something that comes to us. And the same way, it's like you'll drive an extra 10 minutes down the road for 2 cents cheaper fuel, but you won't go across the warehouse to get a different TV that's €10 cheaper than the one you're looking at. So people have very peculiar little idiosyncrasies that prevent them from moving forward.
It's funny how where people have acquired the money will depend on how they spend it. So whether it was money that they got an inheritance or gifted, or they won it, or but ultimately, it is all your money. However you can buy it. I remember talking to a guy who had a pension, and then he had an additional voluntary contribution pension that he accumulated, and his investment strategy on the two were completely different. I was like, but it's all your money, it's all, that is all your wealth, all your resources, but depending on how that money came about, he had a very different way of assessing it. The behavioral economic side of stuff is very, very interesting. That's where the whole psychology comes into how we organize our money. And There's a lovely little phrase from, I think it was Taylor, was the behavioral economist who said this. His thing is that people aren't stupid, life is hard. And I absolutely love that, right? I really, really love that, because there's an assumption that you should be good with your money, and that where people struggle with their finances, or there's as my buddy Dan says to me, people have too much month left at the end of their money. So and people take it as a personal failure if they're not good with money, if they're not able to survive on the income that they have. And that's BS. That really is, because we're not naturally equipped with understanding that. And the amount of forces outside of us that impact how we spend money and where our money is spent and why our money is spent. And a good example of that would be, and I've made the same mistake myself, where, right, I need to get on top of my finances. What's the thing that you will automatically go to is, okay, let's reach for a budget. Is there a budgeting tool? Can I get a pen and paper and write out my income and my outgoing? And let me prove to myself how much money I can have left over at the end of the month, and how I can clear my loans and have more savings. And in the money coaching that we do, that's where we start, and we tell people it's probably not going to work, right? That attitude.
Scrap the spreadsheet.
Yeah, scrap the spreadsheet, scrap the budget. It's probably not going to work. And it's not going to work for two reasons. The first reason is you're probably going to forget something that you should have remembered, right? Yeah. You're just going to forget it. If I was writing up a budget, I know in past when I've done it, a thing that I would often recommend, the simple thing is just the television license. I don't know what it costs now. Is it 160 or it's got to 180? 160, right? It comes in once a year. When the bill comes in, you pay it. But if it happened to be that was the month that I decided I'm going to get on top of my finances, I write it out. I go, okay, I should have 400 at the end of this month. And then that bill comes in. My 400 isn't 400 anymore. So there's a chunk taken out of that. And I should have known it, but it's easy to forget it. And banks, I don't know whether they've been doing this on purpose, but if you run into difficulty with your bank, you've got to fill a thing called a standard financial statement. And I've had people fill it out many times. And they'll write everything out. And they'll go, okay, so I have that amount left. And be like, what about birthdays? Like, oh, yeah. Are you going to do anything for your son or your daughter at their birthday, for your partner on their birthday, for you on your birthday? Are you going to take a holiday? Are you it's very easy to write stuff down, pen and paper, and prove on that you should have it. But it's very common that people forget the real cost. The other thing that's going to happen during that month, if somebody writes out a budget, is there's going to be stuff that you didn't expect. So an example that I often give is you write out your budget, you work it out, and your best buddy gets engaged that month. Are you going to tell them, I can't go out and have dinner with you, or go for celebration drinks, or go to an engagement party? I wrote a budget. Sorry, man. Can't do it. It's below my budget. I'm supposed to have 400. It's going to cost me €200 to go out and have dinner and drinks and party with you. I can't do it. You're not going to. You're not going to do that. Or at least you won't have friends for very long if you do that, right?
You won't have too many more invites.
So there's two things straight away. And what happens out of that then is that it's a cycle of failure. It's like, I've tried it didn't work, I am bad with money. And you will do and act how you believe yourself to be. Yeah. If you believe yourself to be a person who's not into fitness and doesn't go running, you're not going to go running. If you're a person who believes that you don't have a good diet and you're careful, you're not going to have a good. You have to believe. A smoker is actually the best example. I know people who've tried to quit smoking. Until you believe you've quit smoking, you won't quit smoking. If you believe I'm trying to quit, ultimately you're still a smoker. Yes. Right? Yes. So that's the psychology around it. So that's the big problem with people's finances. And the tools, the tools aren't natural to be there. And then, to be somewhat maybe conspiratorial about the whole thing, between society and the education system and the whole lot, and marketing and media pressure and all that sort of stuff we were talking about earlier on, you go out, you get a good job, you get an income, you expect that you can do your summer holiday and your winter holiday and drive the nice car and do all of these things. And a lot of it done in a mindless way. And no matter what you earn, your lifestyle will rise to your income. And people will never get to the stage where they go very, very seldom in a mindless way get to a stage where, I'm grand. Everything's good. It almost never happens. And I've talked to people on significant income. Because if you're earning 50,000 a year and somebody else is earning 300, you go They don't have a bother. They're happy out. Sure, how could they ever have a financial worry? I've talked to people on that money, and they have financial worries, and they have financial difficulties. Now, the lifestyle they're living is not a lifestyle that somebody on 50,000 would be earning, but they get to that stage where their lifestyle just rises to their income.
Regression to the mean is whatever your average is, everything will eventually become the average of it.
And if you're on a certain income, you're probably on an average income what your 5 best friends are on.
Yeah.
So whatever group you're in, your cohort, that's probably what your friends are earning. And if they live in that way, then you're automatically going to live that way. So unless you take control and some mindfulness and you decide what is truly important to me, and I'm going to employ some simple rules to live by, because that's the alternative to the budget, is let's figure out, first of all, what are our values, what's important to us, what are we working towards, and then have some very simple rules that you can apply to how you operate your finances so that you can do what you want to do and be comfortable and have less stress and less guilt around your spending.
And what are those rules?
You gotta do the course.
I'll give you, because it's funny that it's such a timely podcast to come in, because so currently, okay, I'm mindless in my finances to a degree whereby I am not influenced so much by how other people spend their money, but I am mindless in the way that I'll wait, and at the end of the month, if my bank account is a little bit more at the end of the month than it was last month, I'm happy and I don't think too much about whatever else went on. And all through the first and second lockdown, I was making good money. All 12-hour shifts, long days, repetitive, horrible, hated the work, good money. And so the bank account was what because I'm only out of college like a year, and so I'm not used to having a big bank account, but it didn't drop below the 1,000 mark for probably best part of 9 months. And 1,000 became my average. As long as there was 1,000 there at the end of the month, or a little bit more, because it had climbed to, it was like 3, 4, and I've whittled it down from 4, because after January the requirement for security dropped. Other shops began to open. They began to have the red light systems in place, and they found ways of getting rid of security. Security expensive, and slowly but surely, I came to an average of €371 a week. So no matter how many hours I was working, I was getting $371 because the boss was getting the wage subsidy. So at $371, I've got $550 to pay out. Okay, so yeah, $371 every week. I was like, right, that's a lot lower than what I'm used to. But I'm just going to keep now in the bank and just see if she maintains her average. And she didn't. Slowly she went from 4 to 3 to 2 to 2.5 to 2 to 19 to 2.3 to 15, and slowly she fell beneath the 1,000 mark. And that's when I begin to get angry, and I'm like, what is going on? Who's taking my money out of the bank?
Yeah.
And I have been below the €1,000 mark for the last 2 months. And I've been scraping. Every time I'm a little bit at the 1,000 mark, boom, $550 rent comes in, and I'm back down to the 500. And I hate this position. And I know there's people probably listening going, 500 in his bank, geez, he's doing well.
Yeah. It's all relative. Everybody's situation is different.
It is all relative.
Yeah.
For me, I don't like it. I'm very uncomfortable in this position. And so I'm scrambling for other ways of bringing money into the bank. But here's the thing. So I'm like, right, the last month and a half, I'm really watching my finances. And my biggest weak point is Lidl. The middle baskets in Lidl, I am lethal for them. Lidl and Instagram ads. I don't get influenced by what my friends buy, where they go, holidays, none of that. My girlfriend probably wants me to be a little bit more interested in holidays. I'm too laid back for that.
Okay.
Lidl and Instagram ads. I'm a sucker for the two of them.
Okay.
And so I've cut back on them. I'm like, right, no. I've been staying away from Lidl. I've been going in and doing the bare minimum shops, staying away from middle aisles entirely. Don't look at them. Yeah. And I can survive that way. But then we had, so this week, for example, gyms and stuff back open. I have €70 for a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu membership. I have €40 for my weightlifting membership. And then Tuesday, did my back. So I've been doped up all week. I've had a bit of a tough week from that regard. Tuesday, did my back. Tuesday night, came home from training, laid on the ground for an hour and a half, in extreme pain, whatever. Got into bed, got a few hours sleep, ended up in chronic pain, 3 o'clock in the morning. Eventually had to ring South Doc. Got into South Doc, 60 quid to see South Doc. Prescription was another 7. Then I had esomeprazole tablets, which I have to take for heartburn. I realised I'd run out of them. There's another 14. And so within the space of 2.5 days, any hope of staying above the €500 this month or this week, gone.
Yeah.
Wages came in Wednesday and they were already gone because of the bills that have been in there. Aside from that, then you still have the regular finances, from shopping to car expenses.
Yeah.
Car only got serviced there the other week. All these normal things keep coming in and nothing slows down. In that situation, I don't see any way of getting out of it other than finding a way of making more money. Mm-hmm. And you're limited in how fast you can make fast money. And people, when you're in these situations, you understand when people get into selling drugs or they get into something more illegal, because they see these politicians, maybe they're picking on different people to rationalize why they can get into criminality, and they go, if they're all making money, I need to find a way of making money. But there's other ways of making money out there, and we're seeing at the minute with cryptos and stocks and the rise of these get quick fast
multi-level marketing
schemes. And so it gets very complicated for a young person who isn't making a huge amount of money to see how they could get out of this financial squeeze without falling into one of these schemes.
So your example there is a really good example, right? Because you're describing all of what's happened there, and that's life. That's just the way life is. That's living. That is life. And the ease with which you throw that back on yourself. It's like, what am I doing? Why can't I do better? This is crazy, right? And there's a number of tools that you can do, and I'll kind of talk to you about them in a backward way about how these tools help with the problem. So we'll deal with the actual issues that you've described there, okay? And the first thing I'd say to you is that people need to be kinder to themselves. That is, as I was describing you with the whole budget thing, it's like, I need a budget. You do the budget didn't work out. You get angry with yourself. Why can't it be better? Why don't I have enough money left over? Why am I not achieving my goals? Why am I driving a 10-year-old car and my friends are driving new cars? Why can't I go on the holiday? Just take a breath and be kinder to yourself, right? That's an important thing. And then through more mindfulness and figuring out what's important to you and how you go about it, you can start to do it. And a big thing as well, this goes back to the advice that I should have said to you as well about people trying to buy a property. A huge flaw that we have in our mind makeup, our psychology, is we over expect what we can do in the short term and we underestimate what we can do in the long term. And that's really, really important. Like, whatever your financial situation is, if you want to dig out of it, like the idea that you can get all that solved in 3 months, probably that's just not true. What you can do in 3 years is phenomenal. What you can do in 30 years is unbelievable.
Incremental steps.
Like if you can start putting money away and you can get a bit of a growth rate on that, or you can start, even if all you can save this month is 1% of your income, but in 3 months' time you can push it to 2, and then you can push it to 3, and then you can push it to 5, and eventually maybe be getting 10% of your income away. Like, that's what will make the difference. And that's not sexy and entertaining and interesting to talk about the long-term benefits of where you're going. And that's why those, scammers and get-rich-quick schemes, and it's funny, the amount of get-rich, this isn't a get-rich-quick scheme. And then they describe me, go like, you've just described a get-rich-quick scheme. Like, that's why people are drawn to them, because it's like, yes, I want to solve things quickly. I want everything to happen immediately. So take a breath. Think about what you can do around your mindfulness. Be kind to yourself and give yourself time to improve your situation. These are all important things. Some of the examples you described to me there. So you mentioned things about subscription. That's a huge thing. More and more companies are moving to subscription models because it makes them so much money. It is... And the reason for it is, if you're looking at the pricing and you're thinking, right, do I want to pay $250 for that? Do I have $250 to pay for that this month? I don't. But you have an option to put it on subscription for $14.99 a month. Like, $14.99. Sure, that's nothing. What's $14.99? Yeah. But the problem with that way of thinking is that if that's how you think, you may already have agreed a whole load of other subscriptions that are coming out of your bank account. And now you're in a situation where you're starting every month pre-spent a portion of your income. And it might be 10%, it might be 15% of your income. But that's 10 or 15% of your income every month you have pre-spent. Before you do anything, that money is pre-spent. So that's money that's now not available for savings or for other things that you might want to do. And again, it's back to... So I would apply the fund to euro ratio to all of your subscriptions. And if, like, fitness is important to you, strength training is important to you, if you're paying €50 a month for a gym and you go there 3 times a week and you love it and it's important to you and it's part of your values, that's a reasonable subscription to have. On the other end, if your work, I know you're an overachiever with regard to like your work ethic and what you're doing and what you want to achieve, right? Like if you're also paying for Netflix and Amazon Prime and the Disney Channel and other subscriptions, and you're not actually getting the value out of them. Like you're not actually you signed up because it came up as an offer. You thought €10 a month for Netflix, fine, I'll buy it. And other offers came up, or you get an Amazon Prime delivery free because you signed up to it, but now you're still paying for it, but you don't watch anything on Amazon Prime, and you only buy 1 or 2 things a year off Amazon. It's like, are you so? And it's actually an economist that I heard talking about this, a behavioural economist talking about this, where like he was signed up to 8 magazines. He doesn't have time to read 8 magazines, and he intends to cancel them regularly. Yeah, and he just doesn't get around to them. But that's why the subscription model works so well. As an income stream for a business, it is fantastic. And it requires, and I don't know, you won't remember this. This goes back quite a long time. One of the first ones I ever remember was there was a service that would, you could buy a CD, like what's a CD? Physical media, what are you talking about? And then there was a book service many, many years ago. And what you did is they offered really, really good prices. You signed up. I remember my sister signed up many, many years to that. And you have to log on, or was there even the internet at the time? You have to log on and tell them what book you wanted next. But if you didn't pick a book, the editor would pick a book for you, and they'd send you a book. And after a year of it, people end up with 6 books on the bookshelf that they haven't actually read yet, that they didn't even want to buy, but they're on a subscription model, and they have to get around to cancelling it. And they love that. So that's a big thing. And it's like, I listen to a lot of podcasts, as I'm sure you do. You hear ads now on podcasts for kitten litter, for toothbrushes, for razors, for everything is on subscription models. Why do you need to be on a subscription model for a razor blade? I don't get it. No, I'm sorry. You may end up with the paid promotion to do that at some stage, or well and good, take the money. But ask your customers, like, do you need to do that? I don't know if you need to do that. So that's a big one, subscriptions, right? And
to add to the subscription is the concept of sunk money, where people say, particularly with the Amazon subscription, so Amazon business model has shown that when people have subscribed to Prime, and then in their head they're like, oh, I'll get around to cancelling it, but sure, I already have Prime, so I may as well order off Amazon again. And that particularly with Amazon is this concept of, the big money's already spent. There's free delivery there. I should go on. It's easier to go Amazon. And it's the same with people who win money in casinos. Any money they win from the casino, they go, it's the house's money. I'll gamble that. And again, going back to what you said earlier, it's actually your money, but they don't think like that. They've already invested their money. They've lost their money. That's sunk funds.
Sunk cost.
So now they're just talking about, now it's something else. Now there's a different thing that's at play.
Remind me to come back to Aldi in a second, right, or the middle aisles. But to come back to that, Amazon Prime thing, my brother's just moving from San Francisco at the moment over to Texas.
Nice.
But where he was in San Francisco, he's actually on a road trip. The last road trip he's going to do from San Francisco over to Texas. A lovely, week-long journey. Living the dream.
You're living the dream, yeah.
But just because technology has advanced and improved doesn't necessarily mean that it's a good thing for us. So 2 examples here on that. So take the Amazon Prime, right, where he was living in San Francisco. He could get up in the morning and decide, let's buy a new TV, 60-inch TV, right? €1,500. He could decide to buy that on the morning when he wakes up and have that television delivered in under 2 hours, right? So from maybe I'll get a television to having the television in the house, that's not a good thing. That is not so a big part of money mindfulness is giving yourself some space, giving yourself some time, having rules that you can follow that are simple rules that just give yourself some breathing space and some time to think about these things. And thankfully I don't have that service, but if another good example would be you go into Harvey Norman to get some photographs printed, and it takes 40 minutes for them to be printed. It's not long enough to leave the shop to go elsewhere. You're going to just walk around and look at stuff, and the ability then to walk around and go, oh, look at that. New upgraded TV or upgraded laptop.
Jesus,
maybe I will. And And that could be a Saturday. And if you have the ability to move your money from your savings account into your current account and buy something in under 5 minutes. So the thought of, maybe I will, to it's bought, that's not good. Like, so there's the assumption that all these things isn't that amazing. We live in a world where you have all this. But the unintended consequences of it are that it leads to bad behavior.
And that's one of the things about behavioral economics, is that the assumption that humans are rational beings is actually
we're as Dan Ariely says, we're predictably irrational. So it's how do you set yourself up to succeed? I want to talk to you about atomic habits as well. We need to circle back onto that. Yeah, it's great. Going back to the middle aisle. A couple of reasons why that works so well. So what I'm doing here is I'm not giving you away the course that we do, but I'm talking to you about like what are the problems that we arm people to help with. And if you're clever, you can work it out yourself. Yeah. But or you can be like we talked about earlier. It's like just shortcut and come to me and I'll help you with it, right? Yeah. Instead of trying to research the whole thing. But the middle aisle. So one of the reasons why Lidl and Aldi have been so bloody successful is that if you go in there and you're doing your shopping because it's low cost, good quality. Do they sponsor you? No, they don't sponsor. Low cost, good quality foodstuffs and groceries, right? And you see that they have a barbecue set or whatever it is, right? You're programmed. Power tool, yeah. You are programmed to think, I either buy it now or I don't get it, right? Yeah. Whereas the reality is that, right, if you decide I need a power tool, right? There's a project that I'm doing coming up, and I bought an impact driver lately. It was recommended that I should have a drill and an impact driver, and they were right. Impact driver will change your life, right? You need both, right?
Don't tell me.
But I decided that I'd researched it. I gave it time. I thought about it. I decided it. It actually coming up to Christmas, we do a Chris Kringle thing, and I said, you can get me an impact driver. And they're like, are you really? Is that what you want for Christmas? Like, yeah. Well, it's either I go and buy it or there's an opportunity for you to buy a present. That's actually what I would want, right? Yeah. But the idea being that, like, if it comes up in the middle aisle, you're like, look, I could do it one of them. And maybe it's not even something that you had decided before you saw it that you even needed or wanted. It's like, that'd be nice, wouldn't it? And you can justify things. Like, our brain is amazing. We can justify anything we can justify.
This thing that you got on fine without for the last 10 years, you're like, I have to have it now.
And they have programmed us to believe that that it's a very good price, and you either buy it today or you don't get it, because it's not going to be here next week. It's not good. In fact, not only is it not going to be here next week, it's not going to be here 3 days from now. It will be gone. So like, you either buy it or it's gone. And here's the reality of it. If it's an impact driver, for example, or people go, what the hell is an impact driver? But if it's a barbecue or whatever it happens to be, I believe that if you consciously decided that you need it and you went out and researched and you looked for it, probably going to find it at very close to the same price in other shops. And that's why Tesco doesn't do as well when it comes to this. Or let's say, for example, Tesco, who do all the groceries and they do the homeware stuff. Like, you can always buy a laptop or during the summer months, a barbecue or an impact or whatever it might be. And actually, like, B&Q and Homebase will always carry those tools, right? They'll always be there. They don't do as well because there isn't that psychological urgency, exactly. That isn't sitting on you. Whereas when you dropped into Aldi or Lidl for milk and breakfast cereal and some fruit, and now you see that they have that too, you go, I must get that. You could have gone in, you could have planned to buy that, and you could have researched it, and you could have decided in a mindful way, that's something that I need and I'm going to buy it. And you could buy it for pretty much the same price. There's another company. This is I don't know if you were being paid by RT, we could get away with talking about companies like this. But I'm sure this is absolutely fine. Like, Homebase are genius at this concept, right? So the tagline for Homebase is, "When it's gone, it's gone," and it's complete BS, right? Because in the summer, if you want a barbecue or garden furniture, they carry it all summer long. They're a retailer. If something sells and they can make a profit out of it, they will restock it. Yeah. Why would you bring in, if you're a shop like that, why would you bring in 100 barbecues, they sell it really quick, and then say, look, we told you, when it's gone, it's gone. Like, if there's a market and an appetite for it, they'll bring in thousands more, and they will sell them all summer long. But they have conditioned you on two very important things. Number one, everything is always discounted, right? Everything is always like, it should be this price. We're selling it at this price. And secondly, when it's gone, it's gone. You know, it could be like limited availability. Don't miss out. So you walk into the shop programmed. It's discounted. I better buy it. It's removing the requirement of maybe I should shop around. It's like, no, I'm here now, and it is. I can see that the price is down, and it's a good price, and it'll be gone. I better buy. And a lot of that is all subconscious. You know, a lot of that is just like, that's under the radar stuff. Like, we don't even realize that that's what they're doing.
And going back to what you were saying earlier about people just not being as hard on themselves, you're getting assaulted by companies and businesses and techniques that have spent millions upon millions of dollars and euros and times and manpower into devising systems used to circumnavigate all our beliefs and conscious decisions. Like, that's like, you underestimate the fact, because no one's come out and tried to brainwash you or try to pull any sort of funny tricks in front of you. You've walked in, you've seen a sign, everything seems legit. It's like, okay, I've stumbled across a bargain here. I better consider this.
Yes.
And you that's another reason to be a little bit kinder on yourself. You're being manipulated by mega minds.
That's a really good tip that we give people is, I view the relationship I have with retailers and websites and people like that, I view that as an adversarial relationship. Right? This is a war. They're trying to get my money, and I am trying not to give them my money. Right? That's the approach that I take with them. Because especially when you realize how sinister a lot of the tactics that they use, like your buddy you were saying with the car sales, like, he's so clever. That's exactly the right thing. In fact, sometimes I think, screw it, we should just use our powers for evil. Like, you'd make loads of money, you know, but it's just not in me. That's not how I'm built, you know. So I view it as an adversarial relationship that I have with retailers and commercials and websites and all that sort of stuff. And like, there's a great article I read a while back about, like, you know, 50 things that grocery stores do, like the likes of Tesco and SuperValu and them, things that they do to get you part money. And this is one of the worst ones, right? Breakfast cereal aimed at children is usually, if you go into the next time you're in the grocery aisle, look at it. There will be a character on the front of the cereal box that the company have done a deal with the grocery store to get it on a shelf so that the character will get eye contact with your child as you're walking around the shop. So they'll go, oh, there's the tiger or whatever the character is. I want this breakfast cereal, because they've seen the ad on TV, they're excited by the character, and they've seen that, and that's the connection that they have. But then, like, the placement of where stuff is, so that you'll have to, like, if you're just going in, like, they're not going to put the bread and the milk, the immediate stuff, available to you right there. So you can just, like, I only need to go in and get that. So they've made it really simple for me, so I can just go in, pick it up, get that, get out. No, there's end aisles that are done certain ways.
IKEA, they don't let you walk backwards.
Oh yeah.
Stupid trail through this maze.
You have to conform. It's very hard to not conform to the IKEA way of doing things. Very, very true. So they have put all that effort in, and the whole behavioral psychology. There's an interesting one I was going to say. I don't know if I said this to you when we talked before. So. And this brings me on, actually, I wanted to come back to talk to you about Atomic Habits, right?
Yes.
As a recommendation, if there's one book recommendation out of this, it's Atomic Habits, because it's all about how you set yourself up to succeed, and how you can set yourself up, how you set yourself up to do the things that you want to do more of and avoid the things you want to do less of. And that's what we teach in money coaching, right? So, you know, you could go in, figure out all this yourself, or as I say, just shortcut it with us and we'll give it to you really, really quick, right?
Yeah.
But ultimately, that's what it's all about, is setting yourself up to succeed. But in the behavioural psychology, there's a behavioural psychology unit that worked with the government for a while in England. They're like a task force thing. And basically what the government would do is they would go, these are the problems we have. And they'd go to them and they'd say, give us some solutions. And some of the solutions are just so clever.
Is this nudging?
This is the nudge effect, yes.
This
is the nudge effect, yeah. And one of the examples in the book is...
is this in Atomic Habits?
It's the same psychology.
Okay.
It's all about, if you want to do more of one activity, you've got to lower the hurdles that are there from you not doing that activity. And you've got to increase the hurdles, manufacture hurdles that will stop you from stop doing that you don't want to do, right? So, but from a behavioural aspect and the psychology of it, there's two examples which I really love. Actually, there's three examples I can give you. But one of them from that nudge unit was they needed to increase the amount of donors who donate organs, right? And the simplest way of doing it is like have it as an opt-out as opposed to an opt-in. Simple. People still maintain their rights. They can still decide for themselves whether they do or they don't. On the driver's license.
That was the thing.
And it was like, just alter it to an opt-out as opposed to an opt-in. If you want people to pay more money into pensions, you got to make it easier for people to be able to have it as an opt-out as opposed to opt-in, which is going to be coming in here.
The tax one was their immediate one. Like when they were first put together, the government charged them, they said, if you set us up, we will make you 10 times what it costs to set us up. And on the very first technique they used was in getting taxes paid, where just at the start of the tax letter that went out, they said, most people have paid their taxes. You, however, still have this amount outstanding. Yeah. And that one line...
Yeah. Most people will do what most people do. That's simply it. Did you, because you've been in the security game, did you see the one about the lollipop solution? So in London, they had, and in other parts of England, they had a problem with nightclub culture and people, the amount of resources it cost to put police on the street to deal with rowdy people leaving a nightclub and getting into arguments and fights on the street.
I know where this is going.
And the solution that they suggested, which has worked incredibly well, is have the nightclubs hand out lollipops to people as they're leaving the nightclub, right? The reason is, so what happens is, first of all, if you give people a lollipop as they're leaving, you're going to talk less. Right, so there's less
shouting,
chatter, less shouting, less aggro, right? That's one thing. So there's automatically there's less potential for arguments to spill out because people are just talking that little bit less, right? The other side of it is the whole ridiculousness. Like if two guys walk out and they've got lollipops and it looks like they're going to get into an altercation, but they've got lollipops in their mouth. It's like, man, what are we doing? Like, we really are being childish. Like, it's like, here, hold my lollipop. That's very different to here, hold my pint, But that significantly decreased the amount of altercations on the street, which meant less resources for the police, less injuries for the police, less time going to hospital. So it's a lovely example of that whole psychology thing.
With lollipops too, is it has a pacifying effect.
Yeah.
Sucking kicks back in that
there's all sorts of
pacifying effect.
A real life example for an individual that I heard of, and actually my buddy Danny used to teach music. He gave this as a solution as well. Somebody wants to play more guitar and watch less television, and this is an Atomic Habits type trick, right? Is I want to play more guitar and I want to watch less television. Now, willpower isn't enough on its own. So the study on willpower is that you might look at people who are successful, you go like, oh, they've got willpower. How did they do it? That must be amazing willpower, and it's not. That's BS. We have a finite amount. The current research says that we have a finite amount of willpower every day, and we use it up. And that's one of the reasons why people who have money or are successful exponentially do better, because they don't need to rely on that willpower. So if you take somebody who has to decide every morning they get up, am I going to walk, which I should, to work, or will I get a taxi? And they go, no, I'm going to walk and it'll be good. And then, am I going to eat my packed lunch or am I going to go out with the lads at work for lunch? No, I'm going to eat my packed lunch. By the time they get home in the evening, their willpower is shot because they've used all their resource for willpower because they've had to use it all day. And now it's like, will I eat ice cream or will I not go out and exercise? It's very easy not to do that because you've just used up willpower isn't a muscle that gets stronger the more we use it. Which is where the Atomic Habits thing comes in about setting yourself up to succeed. So this guy, I want to play more guitar and I want to watch less television. Now, by the time he gets home in the evening, his willpower is fairly shot because he's probably had to rely on his willpower quite a bit throughout the day. So the solutions are all about lower the hurdles for the things you want to do more of, increase the hurdles for the things you want to do less of. And that's all. That's very simply how we apply everything in financial behavior training and in money coaching training. So that you're not relying on a budget and willpower, you have a better way of doing it, which is all basically how we've been talking about so far. So what this guy did was he said, right, number one, he bought a guitar stand, and when he came in to his home and he had his food, and he would automatically walk from the food to the open plan living area. That's where his guitar was. It was sitting on the guitar stand. It wasn't in a bag. It was tuned. It was ready to go. And the other very simple thing he did is every evening when he was going to bed, if the TV remote was in the living area, he would just bring it with him and put it in a drawer in the bedroom. So when he gets home, the options are, do I pick up the guitar that's right here, or do I walk to the end of the corridor into the bedroom, open the drawer where I keep the TV remote, take it out, walk back and turn on the TV? Now, some days he probably will do that. But most days, he'll just pick up the guitar and he'll do his practice. It used to be the other way around. The activity that he used to do before was the hurdle was really low to pick up the TV remote and turn on the TV. And the hurdle was high with regard to playing guitar because he had to walk to the bedroom. He had to take the guitar case out of the back of the wardrobe, open the guitar case, bring that up, get the music sorted. The guitar probably needs to be tuned now because it's been in a case and moved around. And now he can start playing it. And just making those alterations meant that he was more likely to do it. I did it with fitness. Like when I wanted to get out and do more work and do more fitness, get into running, for me, an accountability partner was massive. If I tell somebody, I will see you on a certain day at a certain time and we'll do this thing, I will be there. If I tell myself, like, so we used to go for a run in the woods on a Saturday morning at 8 a.m. and about 5 or 6 of us would show up and we'd text the night before, who's going? I'll be there. I'd get myself out of bed and I'll go. If I go to bed and I go, get up in the morning now and go for a run at 8 a.m. in the woods, it's not going to happen. I can let myself down incredibly easily. And we all can. And it comes to your finances as well. It's like, no, be good this month. Don't spend that money that way. Build your savings. And when it's just you and you know, it's just you that's who's holding yourself to accountability, it's very easy to be like, and especially if you've had a bad day, especially if you've had to have a day when you've had to rely on your willpower, it's a very easy thing to go, do you know what? I won't. And I do it all the time, even still, maybe I'll get up in the morning, no, didn't do it. Yeah. But if I've told somebody I'll meet them at a certain time to do a thing,
you have to.
I'm not going to let them down. You know, I'm going to get up and do it. And that's another way of setting yourself up to, it's all about setting yourself up to succeed and recognizing these things.
It is a very good book. That Atomic Habits is super. It's very clever.
So important.
And it's really, he's trimmed off all the fat. Every chapter is just very good information. I do recommend it. I'm always skeptical of these. Any new book that comes out, I'm always a little bit, is this self-help? Is this wishy-washy? Is this actually going to benefit me or not? I have to say, hands down, that is a cracking book.
And that's one of the things that we tell people.
Grouping is another very good technique he has, is grouping habits together.
Yes.
What does he call it? He's got a term for clumping or...
Stacking, isn't it?
Stacking. Yeah. That was a genius one. Very simple, but very clever.
Yeah, no, it is. It's a super book. Sorry, I had another train of thought there, but it's gone now as to where you were going to, something you had said to me on that. But yeah, actually skeptical, that was the thing. That's one of the things that we recommend people do. I think very decent level of skepticism and having that just as a default in your brain is incredibly helpful for life and for your finances. And you know, like we've been, when you think about it, like we've kind of been socialized and conditioned to believe that that's not a healthy trait to have. So Catholic Ireland, like, you know, there's a character of Doubting Thomas. Like, you know, Doubting Thomas, he had to see it before he'd believe it. Like, you know,
as if that was
you should just believe. Like you know, like it's important to believe, or you know, all the a lot of the new age stuff of, like, you know, you got to have faith, you've got to believe it, you've got to, you know, you got to lean into it, kind of thing.
There's some of the symptoms that you're being sold something. You're being sold.
Absolutely.
Believe.
You got to, If you it didn't work out for you because you didn't want it enough. Really? Yeah. Like, you know, so I think like a decent, healthy level of skepticism, asking questions. There's a lovely, very small little simple book of, and it's a good thing for teaching kids, but a lot of adults need as well. And it's just a simple book called Maybe Yes, Maybe No. And it's like, you know, somebody says to you, for example, this new cryptocurrency, you're going to make millions if you invest in it. And rather than, like, you know, applying all of the emotion of that, it's like, well, like, you're a good friend of mine, and I know you wouldn't send me wrong, and you know, I should believe you, and like I want to believe, and I do want to be a millionaire, and it's like, yeah, maybe I should take the money that I have in my emergency savings pot and plow it into this new cryptocurrency that you're telling me about. And there's all that emotional attachment. It's like, and somebody would say to you, do you not want to be a millionaire? Like, yeah. But the attitude of the, like, maybe yes, maybe no. So, okay, I need to ask myself some questions about this. Like, what are the questions I need to consider? What is the information that I need?
What are the
where
questions
are my values?
Is crucial.
Yes.
What are the questions? Not analysing who's provided you the information, but what are the actual intelligent questions that need to be asked of anything that comes before you. And that's quite hard to do. That's a skill that comes with just, a lot of times it's failure that gives you the best questions, right? Next time I'm definitely going to check that aspect of whatever I'm getting into. But that is, and that's a tough one for people to have. It's like you saying to people, look, you've come looking for a mortgage. How else are you supposed to have gathered this information? You're not taught in school. It's not a conversation you have with every person. You do it a handful of times in your life. And so it's the same with the type of questions. How are you supposed to know what questions to ask of something you've never done before?
Correct.
And that's where someone like you steps in brilliantly, where I have had most of those questions come true, and here is the answers. Pick and choose where you need, or hit me your question, and I will show you a similar situation somebody else has came to me before.
It's actually a good thing for like, if you've got a good friend that they tell you, I'm going to do this thing, and they're set on it. Like, the worst thing you can tell them is, you're making a mistake. That's wrong. You're doing the wrong thing, because that conversation is not going to go well.
They're going to push back immediately.
And the right approach which is the approach that we apply in money coaching and financial planning and all that sort of stuff, is asking the questions. It's like, okay, so, how is that going to work? What is your reason? We had a great conversation with a person recently, and they're doing incredibly well financially. And I asked you that question earlier, like, what does success look like? What are you trying to achieve here? And they had a figure of income that they wanted to earn, and they were already they're already doing incredibly well, but they had this target to hit a higher figure. It was like, why? How did you come to that figure, and why do you need to hit that figure? And there was no answer to that. It was completely arbitrary. And at the same time, they're struggling with, but I want to spend more time with my kids, and I don't want to work Fridays. So, but you're putting yourself under pressure to hit this figure. So it's not like, that's wrong. That's the wrong figure to be aiming for. You should be aiming for this figure. That's nonsense, because there may be a good reason that they wanted to hit that figure. And then you can have a more interesting conversation about that.
But you still have to ask that question.
You have to ask that question, and being skeptical and asking and having a way to come about making those decisions and figuring out what's important to you, and it comes back to mindfulness. One of the things you had suggested for today was the conversation around the difference between the mindset of those who have money and those who don't have money, and those who invest and do well and those who don't. And this kind of leads on to that. There is, if you take somebody who came from a working class family, who, certainly when I was growing up, we had what we needed, right? We didn't go on foreign holidays and stuff like that, but if we needed stuff, it was there. My dad was very much of the opinion that, well, one, you always tell the truth, and two, if you bring somebody into your house to get work done, they don't even come and quote until you have the money there to pay them. These are like, you always have your emergency funds squirreled away, and these were actually very important things, which it took me a long time to emulate that. It took me a long time to see, actually, that does make a lot of sense. Just because the bank will give you an overdraft and a credit card, and the bank can give you like 40 grand in under 24 hours, and like, that's not necessarily a good way to live. But going back to just the difference between, I suppose, how you're, which goes back to what we were talking about before we started recording, about the rich dad, poor dad mentality and stuff. There's people who were trying to be successful and wanted more for themselves, their family, their children, and so on. And particularly coming up to the last recession, where they were being told by financial advisors, you need to leverage. You need to release equity from your home, buy a second property, buy a third property, buy a fourth property. And, the bigger question is like, but why? Why are you doing that? And is that within your comfort zone? Is that within your values? Do you have leeway for recession times? Do you have leeway for a drop in rent? Like, all these figures might work today because rental values are good. What if rental values come down? I spoke to a guy who had a very good commercial property that he bought with an anchor tenant. And then that anchor tenant went into liquidation. And what was clear sailing and plain sailing for him led to 10 years of absolute struggle. Now, I'm not saying don't invest and don't follow a path, but do it consciously in mindfulness in a way that would make sense for you to do it. And the difference where people are not like, balls to the wall, like just throw everything at it, like hope for the best. The trend for the last 5 years has been good. Let's assume that was always the way it will be. The reason why the rich get richer and people who have money will always, do better is because they will be more reserved and cautious about their spending, and they will have reserve of money. So in the recession, people who had money got incredibly wealthy during the recession because they could pick up properties at bargain basement prices.
And the people who were overreaching were the ones who got burned.
And they're the ones who are burnt where they're in 10 or 15 years of financial hardship.
So the difference there is in the values. Yeah.
It's in the values, but it's also in like where they have reserve, where they have comfort levels. Where like they're not over leveraging. They have reserves. They have, and they probably, and like there's a lot of people who would have had generational money. Like their parents had money, their grandparents had money. There was land, there was money handed down. Like I saw people picking up a commercial property for 100 grand that has a cost of construction of 500,000 and is back now with a rental value of like 25 grand a year. Like people did that because they had the money at the right time and they bought at the right time in the smart way. So a trend that usually happens, just take investment in shares for example, right? The reason why novice investors tend to lose money is because they follow a very simple, and there's a guy called Carl Richards who does really simple graphics on this, right? He's podcasting an old book and stuff. It's called Behavioural Gap. Very much into behavioural psychology as well. But if you take a typical scenario of people who are a more novice investor, and by novice investor I mean, people who've bought a house, they have their income coming in, they have a little bit of savings. They're like, okay, I'd like to do a bit of investment, whether that's even in their pension investment or outside of their pension investment or whatever they're doing. They're at that bit of a level of comfort where they can now do some investment. And this investment might only be children's education, college education funding, right? But what can often happen is like, okay, I need to invest. And they look at, so the first thing you want to look at is an advisor might recommend a fund. And the go-to question is, well, how well has that fund done? And you go, oh, this fund has delivered double digits return in the last 5 years. Oh, great. Okay, put my money into that. If it's had 5 years of double digit returns and it's anyway just a reasonable fund, it's probably due what people might call a market correction or some volatility, because funds don't climb exponentially ongoing forever. Like the investment road isn't plain sailing. Like there aren't funds that are genuine funds that will give you 10% double-digit returns year on year consistently forever with no adjustments.
It doesn't happen.
There'll be some years where it's 15%. There'll be some years where there's a minus return. So they see that they've had 5 good years. They go, I'll invest in that. Put the money in. They'll get a few more good years maybe, and then there's a market correction. And they generally hear about that market correction because it's made media news, right? Because they only report the bad days. Yeah. They don't generally report the bad days are the first item on the news. The good days are the last item on the news. So they hear that there's been a market correction. They ring their advisor and they go, what happened? They go, yeah, your fund is down 20%. And they panic and they sell out and they move to I need to move to a safe fund immediately. They move to a safe fund. The problem with the safe fund is it doesn't have the potential to make the return because it's now sitting in cash or sitting in a very low risk product that doesn't have the potential to make the fund. So they bought high, they sold low, and the question is, when do you buy in? When I have confidence in the market again. When will you have confidence? When I see there's been a number of years of good return. So there's been a number of years of good return. Okay, now I'll buy back in. They're buying high, and it's basically a cycle of failure, and it's who the likes of what Warren Buffett has talked about. And I don't not that he's a guy that I like to quote very often, particularly since you see the little amount of tax that he paid, even though he's asked to pay more tax, but that's just the tax laws. That's why he makes money, because he doesn't lose the head when the money comes down. And people who have wealth don't need to lose their head when the money comes down, because they can sit it out.
This is the thing. So my housemate and his friend Market Movers is a page they set up, just obviously not giving financial advice, but they're giving financial advice.
Right.
And thankfully they have their priorities lined up, and one of the things that they keep having to repeat to people is don't freak out when the market drops.
Yeah.
If you've done your research, and this is where the tactics become very important. If you've done your research, you've found a stock you like, you've gone through their last couple of years, you've seen their projections for the future, you've actually understood that.
Yeah.
You know the product or the service they're providing. You should have the knowledge and the confidence in your decision back then, so that when they drop, you don't go, oh my goodness, I need to sell quick before I lose any more money. You go, oh yes, keep going, and I'm going to buy in more, and my cost dollar averaging is going to be beautiful. And repeatedly, especially in the last couple of months, people who have gotten on the crypto trend because it's a trend, because they've heard of all these success stories, they have no tactics coming into it. They're real nervous. They've gone, okay, I recognize that one. Bang, I'm going to throw all my money there. That's going to have to bring me money back. There's a bit of a wobble. And because they've got no foundation, they freak and they go scrambling trying to get back. And they've only lost money. So they don't even use the concept of sunk funds that we were talking about earlier. They're now considering the money they've invested as still their money, and they got to get back as much of that as possible before the market turns them over and dumps them loose.
Yeah.
And that is one of the big problems with where people are losing so much money as novice investors, is they don't have the strategies, they don't have the confidence, and they don't back themselves. And they have to turn to people, and there's very little quality information out there for people who are genuinely offering information that will benefit you as the individual. And again, thankfully people like yourselves are there to provide that.
I agree with all that you're saying there. And it comes back as well to like what sells and what gets people excited. And, sometimes the advice that I feel that we give, it's just not exciting enough for people. Like the idea that it's like
not
long-term steady growth is how you make money. It's like, really? Can I not make all my money in 6 months? Investing in stuff that you don't actually really understand, investing because other people are getting on a train. It's like get the property bubble, the tech bubbles that have happened before. There's a thing that I read the other day, which I absolutely love. Like the .com bubble and stuff like that. Like people who launched companies with a tech sounding name. I can't remember what they used. There was a company that used a tech sounding name as part of the tech bubble that happened, and they had nothing to do with the tech industry. Nothing. They were actually a laxative company, is what they were. But they put a tech sounding name. And when they launched, their went through the roof. People were investing because they saw the name. It happened again recently with a company that had nothing to do with cryptocurrency, but they included blockchain in the name of the company that they registered. And their investment skyrocketed before people actually realized what it was.
But then that creates for a very volatile stock.
It's incredibly volatile stock. It's
not a good strategy.
It's not a good strategy at all.
We had it with that scam coin. So simple, cool, automatic money was a cryptocurrency that some fella in America just strung together in an afternoon, and within a couple of hours it was worth 70 million. Yeah. Like just like that. And it's called, when you search it, it is scam coin is what it's called.
Yeah. It was an experiment in himself to see how will this go, and hopefully he sold out at the right time and he made loads of money. But like I
think he's still
money is essentially being made at the expense. Money is often made by institutions and wealthy people at the expense of novice investors.
Yes.
And then you have whole sorts of like multi-level marketing schemes are incredibly wealth producing for the people at the top. Not for the people at the bottom who now have a garage or a shed full of product that they can't sell because they had to buy it to keep on the level.
Herbalife would be one of the most common ones that people would be familiar with. And we better explain multi-level marketing because and pyramid scheme is another key term that comes in here. You might actually be able to explain it.
Well, let's go through the three of them. So Ponzi, pyramid, and multi-level. Okay, and I know that like people will be in the camp and they'll be like, no, it isn't one of those things, or they'll justify it, but I made money out of it, and yes, it can be one of those three things, and it can be dangerous, and you need to be very, very careful. Again,
Ponzi and pyramids are illegal.
Multi-level marketing isn't illegal,
no.
But there are still reasons why you need to take care of it.
Yes.
So let's start with the illegal ones. So the Ponzi scheme is and the biggest name in all of that is a guy. I think he died recently, actually. Madoff, who made off with all the money.
Yeah.
Did you ever have nominative determinism? It's where somebody happens to have a name that reflects what they ended up doing, or a
murder called Killjoy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But it happens a lot. But Madoff. So essentially, and this is a good example because it ties back to everything that we've been talking about. He got into investments. He had got a name for getting really, really good returns. But essentially what he was doing was he takes 10 grand from you. And at the end of the year, he says, good news. I mean, you're getting a 25% return on that. Brilliant. You're not going to get a 25% return anywhere else. Do you take that money back from him and walk away? No, you don't.
No, of course
you
not.
go,
here's more money.
Roll it over, and here's another 10 grand. And I talked to all my buddies. They'd like to get a 10 grand return. So they bring in money. And he's not actually making that return. He's using the client investment money to pay back the return that he needs to pay back, that he promised that he would pay back. And it snowballs, and it snowballs, and it snowballs, and it's got to break eventually.
So the identifying feature there is the fact that pyramid and Ponzi schemes work. The money is made on who you bring in, on who you can bring to the scheme.
Now, in a Ponzi scheme, like somebody could invest with an investor and they'd be like, he's not asking me to bring in anybody else. Like, it's not, I don't need to be worried about this because he's not asking me to bring in anybody else. He's just giving me this return. But the big identifier is money being made consistently, year on year, that is outperforming everything else. Okay. If it's too good to be true, it's probably too good to be true.
And as you said to me on the chat we had a little while ago, was that if someone has a multi-million euro scheme, why would they share it?
Why would they share that?
Why would they give it to you?
So if that guy can make that return consistently every year, you know, why take a percentage cut to manage other people's money? Just become a billionaire, become the next Jeff Bezos or whatever. Like, why would you offer that money to anybody else? It's a good thing to think about. So if it's too good to be true, it's probably too good to be true, and you have to ask questions. And the other part of this as well is that, like, if you know, people tend to go, and this is a thing for the pyramid schemes definitely is, you know, I don't really understand how I'm making the money. But look at my bank account. Look at the app. I've made this money every week or every month for the last 18 months. Like, you know, this is all I need. And it's like, if I was to meet you every Monday morning, you give me a bag of cash and I give you back a bigger bag of cash at the end of the week, and I go, oh, I made that on cryptocurrency. You're like, did you? That's brilliant. And I'm just buying heroin and breaking it up and have a whole dealer network, and I'm just using your cash to buy more product to ship it out. It's like, where does the ethics come into it? Like, shouldn't you be confident about where your money is going and what's happening out of it? Because and like, shouldn't you be confident that if your mate says, where do you invest your money? I go, I invested with this guy Madoff. He gets me 25% a year return every year. And you go, oh, give me his number. Like, when that guy loses all his money, where was your responsibility? So there's a lot of personal responsibility required there, but a lot of people just shortcut. It's like, I don't really know how hedge funds work and investments in crypto, but this guy gets me a return and that's where I'm going to place the money. I think you need to ask more questions. You need to be confident, because you don't want to be the person who's like, I heard of an accountant who brought his customers to a pyramid scheme, thinking it wasn't a pyramid scheme, and to maintain his own face afterwards and reputation, he had to put his hand in his pocket for everything that they put their money in, which was expensive to do. So anyway, Ponzi scheme. That's the idea of a Ponzi scheme, is that the return is actually not a return. It's all fake. And the way you see it is like, if it's too good to be true, it's too good to be true. And you need to ask some questions, right? The next one is pyramid scheme. So a pyramid scheme essentially is all about you bring people in. Now, sometimes it can be completely blatant. Like, there was a flower one that was out recently, and it was petals of a flower and stuff like that.
Oh, that one got under my skin. That was the most obvious one I've ever seen. And people were sharing it. People were like, ooh, this is fantastic.
Oh. And you know, I know you can be annoyed with people, like, but
people made money off that.
At the end of the day,
that was almost the most annoying factor.
But the majority of people who will, the people who started are doing it for nefarious reasons. But lower down, there are genuine people who who believe what they were told, and they think this is a genuine thing, and they think it is actually going to be a helpful thing. What did I say to you earlier? People aren't stupid. Life is hard. And the aspect of that is like, the people who come up with these pyramid schemes are really clever. And they are appealing to our worst nature. They're appealing to the psychology that we fall for. Like, we want to get a quick return. We want stuff that's exciting. We generally will invest in stuff that we don't actually understand, you know, and it appeals to all that sort of stuff. And that's why people fall for it. But the thing about pyramid schemes is that if pyramid scheme is to work, let's say, for example, for when you get in, you need to bring in 8 people behind you, right? That doesn't sound like a lot of people. Like, you probably have, if you're on Facebook, you probably have 500 friends on Facebook. Like, you're going like, we need 8 of them. Sure, that's fine. I can do that. So I put my money in. I get 8 people in. I get my big payment out. Great. But when you look at the bigger picture of it, that's exponential growth. And then you have to think about, well, how many people in the world have the capability to be able to invest that? Of that amount of people, how many people actually would invest that? And that number gets smaller
very quickly.
And the amount of people that are needed is exponentially getting bigger. And basic maths will tell you a pyramid scheme will fail very, very quickly.
Yeah.
It is doomed to failure. The problem with pyramid schemes, and this is where the regulatory aspect, because I've sent stuff to the regulator and said, I was told about this thing, it's a pyramid scheme, here you go, I think you should investigate it. The problem with it is that the people who set them up are so clever. And what they'll typically do is they'll link it to a product. So there was one that was done where it was like, this is actually internet advertising that we're doing, or this is, they link it to a certain kind of
cashback cards was one.
A product, whatever it happens to be. But that link is really, really tenuous, and they're not showing you the back office setup of it. So it appears like you're actually promoting this thing, but really, how all the money is being made is you invest and you bring more people in after you. It's a pyramid scheme. There's a lovely clip on The Office with you know, the guy in The Office who's he's gone like, oh, I found this thing, I'm going to make millions, and it does this and it does that. And they say that's a pyramid scheme. And he goes, no, it's not, because, and he draws it out. And if I remember correctly, I think somebody walks up to the board and just turns it upside down and draws a pyramid. He goes, it is actually a pyramid. But like, we will do anything to fool ourselves into thinking it's not. And especially you have that whole entrenched position that people are in where, well, I've put my money in, and now I'm going to defend this to the hilt because I don't want to appear foolish and I want to believe this thing. There was one that's around recently, I won't tell you the name of it, but there was one that was around recently, and it was really clever as to how it was being done. I remember I said it to Laura I work with, and she said that there was like a person who was like a Weight Watcher person, right, who ran this. But over the years of doing that, had a massive following, like thousands of people who were following their page. And then posted this, hey, I invested my money in this thing, I think you should too. And their whole system was so clever as to like, you know, jump on a live stream, I'm going to show you how you do it. And like, they already have a lot of kudos, they have a lot of belief in what they've been doing. And this system, like, there was a Garda who was promoting it. There was a solicitor who was promoting it. Because like, this is great. But what they were going on was, I've been making my money out of it. Or at least the app is showing me this consistent return. But that's not enough. As I said to you about Ponzi schemes and stuff, that's not enough. So anyway, pyramid schemes, they're a little bit easier to identify. They're usually linked tenuously to some product. And you mentioned that earlier on about if somebody has the ability to get this amazing return, this company have found this way where they can make this amazing return, and they're offering you to buy in for €500. And you have to go to a free seminar in a hotel on a rainy night. And they're covering the cost of it and the cost of the coffee. Really? Like, why? Why are they doing that? Like, why are they giving you that? Or if they're giving a free seminar to tell you about how you can make money out of commercial property investment, for example, you know, maybe their motivation is that they just want to sell you property training programs. And you're never going to actually acquire properties and make millions out of it. So that's the Ponzi, the pyramid. And what was the last one?
Multi-level marketing. Because I'm conscious now, it's coming up to 1 o'clock.
Oh, yeah.
So just for your own sake.
Yeah.
Multi-level marketing. And then I have one more question.
Okay. So multi-level marketing, again, is more of a tenuous thing because there is a genuine product. You can see a product. They'll argue that there's health benefits and all the rest of it. But from the company's point of view, the big thing for them is get you on board to sell the product. They will tell you that you don't need to bring anybody else, just sell the product. That'll be absolutely fine. But if it's structured in such a way that where you really make the money is bringing on other people and convincing them to sell it. And I listened to a great podcast about this where it was handbag sales. So it was like let's take for example that there's been a homemaker who's raised 3 kids and they're trying to get back out. They'd like to have an additional source of income. They want to do it. They see a friend of theirs has done this thing where they're selling handbags and they're making money, and they sell it as the dream of you could run your own business, you can do your own thing, you can run this business on the side. It doesn't take much time. You'll be your own boss. But ultimately, like, who's actually making money out of it? Like, the company who's selling the handbags are really making the money out of it, and the people who get involved in it, very few of them. There's one woman who was on it. It was like, yes, I've made some money on it. It was 60 hours a week work because I had to manage my team. I had to get Facebook things going. I had to do this and that. And if they had gone and taken a job somewhere for 20 hours a week, they'd have made more money, and they wouldn't have had the risk of buying all this stock and investing and doing all these things. So you got to ask yourself, well, what's really required, and look at the warning flags. The Consumer Protection Commission have a website, and they have brilliant resources on how to identify Ponzi schemes, how to identify pyramid schemes, whether or not multi-level media marketing is something that you should really get involved in. And as I said to you earlier on, be incredibly skeptical. And these things are successful, and they will continue. And it doesn't help for people to go, okay, this one, and that's why I'm not interested in naming names in it. This one is a scam, don't do this one. Because that one will end, and there'll be 5 more next week. Because it works. And it's going to be here forever. And you can't rely on the regulatory bodies or the regulator to police it, because they're on the back foot all the time. These things can take off like wildfire. You mentioned the guy who did Scamcoin. He did a bit of programming. He launched it. It was worth 70 million in, was it, about 2 months? And then it was worth 2 million another month after that. And so that meant for that to go from that valuation to that valuation means that there was a lot of people who put a lot of money in who lost 90% of their investment or 80% of their investment straight away.
He did put it into a fund, into a mutual trading fund. But that's also another little point there was the Cash FX, that scam that went around. One of the hard things about that is that you do go through that extra bit of research, and when you read up on them, they associate themselves with EverFX, which was a legitimate registered trading broker. And so with a bit of research, you go, okay, no, that's fine. They actually are legitimate. They're working with someone who's legitimate. That's fine. And it wasn't until people began to come looking for the money that they began to investigate Cash FX further that they realized that EverFX came out and said, wait, who? We've never been in association with them at all. They contacted us months back about doing deals, but we never engaged with them at all. They're not part of us. They're not written with us at all. That's nothing to do with us. And so even when you do a bit of research, you can still get burned. And that's the thing. And completely. It comes back around to being gentle on yourself. And before you... And
actually just very on that, be kind to yourself. And there's some basics that people ignore. Diversification. Your grandmother and grandfather would have told you, don't put all your eggs in one basket. And people break that rule every single day of the week. There was a guy on the late night show there, the investigative show about the dolphin investment. He lost €1 million in his pension pot. He had it all in one pot. So his entire pension pot that he'd worked all his life to accumulate had no diversification. Like, that's a basic tenet. And people don't do that all the time. If you're going to put money in a high risk investment, only put in what you're prepared to lose. That's a simple rule. Like, there's basic simple rules that people ignore all the time. And another one is like, invest where your values are. Like, if you're the kind of person that it would kill you that a buddy lost all of their money on something that you introduced them to, then you should really be super careful and ask questions about what you put your money into before you put your money into. But yeah, a lot of it is basics that people ignore, and it's not because they're stupid or ignorant or wrong or whatever. We have to fight against how our brain operates. We have to set things up in place for ourselves to
And
make
stick
sure
to
that
them,
we
right.
do the right things and we don't do the wrong things.
So then, just before you jump, is so on someone in my situation, not making a huge amount of money. How does someone like me go to actually saving money and maybe even growing that current account without any extra income?
So number one is you need multiple accounts. That's a mistake that people make all the time.
Okay.
They work off one account. Business owners, self-employed business owners work off one account. It is not helpful. If you have all of your money in one account, and when you open your online banking or whatever, you see that money, that's going to influence the decisions that you make. Straight off, you should not have all your money sitting in one account. You should have multiple accounts. And people go, oh, what if the banking charge would be higher? The credit union charges you nothing to hold money there. Having a post office account, a building society savings account, you should have money with labels and you should know where it is. You should have an emergency savings fund that is not easily accessible, right? Again, you increase the hurdles for what you don't want to do. So if you have an emergency savings fund and it's sitting linked to your current account or in your current account, it's too easy to spend the money. There should be a hurdle between you and that. Now, that hurdle might mean, so my emergency savings fund sits in the credit union. If there's an emergency, I can access that money. I can't access it immediately, but like, what kind of emergencies do you have to have money like within the next 5 minutes?
Yeah.
I have a float, right? But my emergency fund isn't sitting there, right? So, emergency savings fund is important. Have mindfulness around your spending. If you can only put away 1% of your income into savings, separate it away. Start there.
Okay.
Work towards it. Whatever you can do towards reducing your outgoings, your subscriptions, taking on new debt, that's a good thing to do because the bigger the reduction in your subscriptions or in your loan payments going out, you automatically have more capacity for savings. And it's not true that, everybody has a mortgage, a car loan, a personal loan, a credit card, an overdraft. And like that, you don't need to live like that. That's not... Society is conditioned to us to believe that that's how people work. You don't need to work that way. I know lots of people who've cleared all their debt and their mortgage and have no finance whatsoever, and they finance themselves. And that's a reasonable thing. It might take a long time to get there, but you can work towards that. And by not having short-term debt, that gives you opportunity for savings.
Taking on bad debt is another one as well.
Bad debt.
Little woods.
Oh,
credit union
completely.
loans for cars and all this ridiculous stuff. Don't take them on. If you don't need them, don't take them on.
Now, there are I don't want people to think that, I'm a failure because I've got loans. Like, there are reasons why you need loans. What I'm stressing here is mindfulness. Make your own decisions. Decide when you should borrow money for the right reasons, for the right in the right way, and pay it back in the correct way or as quickly as you can. Because that then will give you the scope for savings. So the next time, maybe you'll buy something out of savings as opposed to out of having to need a loan for it. We have to do a lot of work with people to get them into the mindset that savings is a good thing. Sometimes people see their savings balance as opportunity money, as like it burns a hole in their pocket. They build up $3,000 in savings, and it's like now all it does is program them to like, here's the opportunity. I could actually change the car. We could book a holiday. We could why don't we? The money's there, and getting into the idea that you having savings for yourself is you backing yourself. It's insuring yourself. It is there for opportunity, but it's there for emergency. And it's a good thing for it to be. And that's why it's so important to have separate accounts. You should never log on to your online banking and see your emergency saving. Okay. Because it's subconsciously going to affect your spending decision. It's like the self-employed business owner who works one account. Self-employed business owner should never work one account because that account should have tens of thousands of euro in it, because you should expect to have to pay a tax bill and pay money into your pension and do all these other things that you have to do. And if you're self-employed and let's say you were employed and now you're self-employed, you've been self-employed for the last 5 years, if you're working one account, it's really hard to make the right decisions for yourself because like you see a big balance in your account and you go, I could change our car. We could take the kids to Orlando because you're looking at that balance. But that balance isn't reflective of where you actually stand. And we mentioned bookkeepers before we started. That's where a good bookkeeper comes in as well. But like a self-employed business owner should have multiple accounts. And we have a system that we help self-employed business owners develop that so they can do that.
And pensions. Are you a supporter of pensions?
I
know good pension schemes out there.
Pension is funny because you say the word pension and people go, I'm out.
Yeah.
Right? because it is the opposite of what people get excited about. It's long-term slow growth, right? Now, if I was to say to somebody, you know the SSIA scheme that was out a number of years ago where the government matched your savings, right? So if you put €100 into your savings, you'd get, this is showing my age, the government would give you €25, right?
Yeah.
If you're on the higher tax bracket, and this has nothing to do with what you invest your money in. If you're on the higher tax bracket and you put €100 into your pension fund, the government give you 67, right? Why would you not do that?
Going, is it?
That is the government pension scheme. That is it. Because
but you have to work for the government for that?
No,
you can opt into that scheme.
So how that works is that if you're on the higher tax bracket, you have to earn €167 to get €100 after-tax income in your wallet to spend.
Yeah.
Right? If you don't take that €100, you don't get taxed on it. You have to earn 167 to get 100 because you lose 40% of it, right? That's exactly how it works. Now, it's not. There are people who are trying to persuade you to put money into short-term get-rich-quick schemes, and I've seen a few of these guys on YouTube. They're like, "Well, we all know pensions don't work." It's like, why do we know that pensions don't work? Like, if you have, I have this lovely calculator I've done, which I'm only looking forward to sharing it with self-employed business owners, where we ask them, how much income can you earn in net profit? How much money do you actually need to live on? Which a lot of people don't do. Their lifestyle just rises to whatever the available funds are. So let's say, for example, somebody says, well, I believe I can run my own business and I can have a net profit at the end of the year of 100,000. And I actually need 60,000 a year to live on. If I had a salary, if I was working and I had a salary of 6,000, I'd live on that salary, right? And we have this calculator, we show them, well, what your opportunity is to take a chunk of that 100,000, pay no tax on it, and move it straight into your long-term savings. Take your income of 60 and possibly still have opportunity money left over after that you'll pay some tax on, that are things that you can do for your family, pay down your mortgage early, go on a holiday, do whatever it is. And how much wealth you can accumulate. So like somebody in their 30s who does that will easily get a 2 million pension pot by the time they retire, which is the maximum amount you can have. The average pension pot that people retire in Ireland is somewhere in the region of 120,000, right? We don't use the opportunity that we have to do that, but it's a lot of it is in the negative associations that we have just with the word. So if I say to somebody, would you be interested in saving money before you pay tax so you can siphon some money off that the tax office don't even literally see? It doesn't come into their calculations. And you can grow that money tax-free. That's the big thing people don't know, is that it's tax-free when you put it into pensions. Yeah, and they go, oh, that sounds interesting. And they go, it's a pension. You go, oh, I don't know about pensions. And part of the reason is like, your money's tied up until you retire. But it's like, what other option do you have? What else is your plan? And if you have a plan where it's like, well, I actually have a large inheritance coming and I plan on selling this business that I'm growing when I'm 45 and I'm going to do this, great. You don't need a pension then. That's absolutely fine. But if you're earning profit or you're earning a salary and you want to be financially independent someday and have a income in retirement, whether that starts at 50 or 60 or 70, well, what else are you going to do? And if you have a solution, great. And if you don't have a solution, maybe this is the one you should do. And at a minimum, you should at least use it to pay less tax. Because going back to the difference between wealthy people and poor people, wealthy people don't pay a lot of tax because they know how the system works and they have set themselves up. And the government should do something about that, and they should figure out a better way of taxing wealth and taxing people who don't need to draw income but are still getting incredibly wealthy. And before somebody gets on to you and goes like, well, I'm working and I just have 2 investment properties and I'm already being taxed because on an investment property you're taxed every which way you move. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like, if somebody is adding over €1 million to their bottom line wealth every year, like it's reasonable that they should contribute a bit more. That's only real. And like there are people who are accumulating considerably more than that. Like if you look at the figures that come out on Warren Buffett and Jeff Bezos and stuff like that over the past while, I think they a lot of them only paid less than a fraction of a % on the increase in the value of their assets over 5 years.
Like, this madness.
That's a discrepancy that we need. So I'm not, before people start, you're like, hang on, I'm investing in this and that, and I'm paying my tax. Like, I'm not talking about that. Like, there is a whole other level, like, you know.
So there's a variety of pension schemes there. Is there a variety? Sorry, I meant to ask that.
There is. So there's a number of pension options. There's whether you're a sole trader, whether you're an employee, whether you're an employee with a pension scheme through work. Like if somebody is an employee, if somebody is an employee in a company and they have a pension scheme, it would be insane for them not to contribute into the pension scheme. Because if you've got a matching contribution to a pension scheme, even if say 5% and you're on the higher tax rate, you give up €100, you get €166, €167 into the pension, and then that gets doubled by the employer contribution. So what is that? That's like 330.
Well, you can operate on two different schemes there.
No. It's the one scheme, but like your contribution goes in, and an employer will do a matching contribution. Yeah. So your €100 that you don't take ends up being like €330 that month. That month. Yes. It's like there is very little legal options to convert 100 into 330 on the day. Yeah. There's none really, isn't there? Yeah. So like the idea that, like, again, mindfulness, asking the right questions, taking a pause, getting good advice, asking yourself, what should I do? Pensions aren't for everybody. I'm not in the business of selling pensions to people who don't want to buy pensions. But it is definitely an avenue of what they should do, but it's one avenue. But if you're in your 20s and you have a big rent payment at the moment, you know, it may not be the right thing to do. Maybe the thing to do is get your emergency savings together, invest in yourself, pay for more education. Like, you know, it may not, because if you're in your 20s, you're not going to be retiring for up to 40, 45 years from now. So it's not that it's like you need to do it today and you need to. And also, the income that you're earning in your 20s is not the same level of income that you'll probably be earning in your 40s and 50s. So it's, So, and again, overestimating what you can do in the short term, underestimating what you can do in the long term. Yeah. Pick your priorities, you know, pick a goal, work on it. You know, don't overstress yourself, be kind to yourself. But also, don't be chasing the next shiny thing without and overlooking the things that are there for you that you should deal with today, you know. But the thing that because I know we're wrapping up soon, the thing that I would love to have interaction with people is if they could, I'm going to be launching this on a website fairly soon, but in the meantime, my email address is info@sortmyfinances.org, or to email you, or to hopefully we'll have a link on the description and stuff, right? We've put together a quiz, which I'm really excited about.
It's an excellent quiz.
It's a fun per euro ratio quiz, and it's just, how are you doing with the spending that you spend at the moment? Are you getting out of that the fun, the enjoyment that you want to get out of your spending? And if they never interact with me, but it raises some questions to start thinking about, brilliant. Yeah. And if you want to interact with me and you want to, like, our money coaching session that we do is not expensive, and it will help guide people the right way, and it's all about this philosophy. And you know, if somebody wants to come back to me and go like, I can't afford to pay your course at the moment, I go, fine, here's some resources,
here's a subscription,
here's some books. no well, we're going to do the subscription model because we want people to do it, but like, I'll direct you to books. If you want to go in and do the research, go in and do the research, absolutely fine. I'm very much, you know, I suppose I see myself as a very much anti-commercial kind of person, because I want people to not be lemmings. I don't want them to just go ahead and do whatever else. People to make up your own mind, have your mindfulness, do the right thing. If we can help you along the way, great. If we can direct you along the way, great. And, you know, some people will interact, some people won't, and that's absolutely fine. But that's the message, I suppose, that we want to help people with.
So once more, where can people contact you on? So
info@sortmyfinances.org. If they email that, I'm not on the socials. I decided years ago that I actually, the whole American politics got me off Facebook. It was just too depressing. So just the old-fashioned, drop me an email. We'll be launching a whole website and platform fairly soon on this, and I'll get back to you. Maybe I know we have enough content that we could talk many times on various different topics. So maybe I'll be on, I'll talk to you again. But if that's what they do for the moment, that would be ideal.
Super. Eugene, thank you very much, man.
Excellent.
I appreciate it.
I really enjoyed this. Thank you very much.
Man.
Yeah.